Have you ever found yourself lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and replaying the same thought again and again? That conversation you wish had gone differently. That decision you regret making or not making. That one moment that keeps echoing inside your head like a broken record. Welcome to the exhausting world of overthinking. At first glance, overthinking looks harmless. You might believe you're just being careful or thoughtful. But psychology tells a deeper truth. Overthinking is not thinking more. It's thinking in circles. Your brain starts analyzing past mistakes or future fears so deeply that it forgets to live in the present. You try to find peace, but your thoughts become louder than the world around you. When you overthink, your mind becomes your own worst enemy. It takes small issues and magnifies them until they feel unbearable. You start asking yourself endless what-if questions. What if I fail? What if they don't like me? What if I could have done it differently? And each question gives birth to 10 more. Soon, your thoughts become a storm, and peace becomes a distant dream. The cruel irony is that overthinking often comes from good intentions. You want to make the right choice. You want to avoid mistakes. You want everything to be perfect. But the harder you try to find control, the more control you lose. It's like trying to calm the sea by stirring the water. Overthinking can also become a way to avoid action. When you're stuck in your head, you don't have to face real risks or real people. Thinking feels safe, while doing feels dangerous. But staying in that comfort zone slowly kills your confidence and joy. Every overthinker believes one more thought will bring clarity. But it never does. Because peace doesn't come from thinking more, it comes from knowing when to stop. To understand overthinking, we have to peek inside the mind. In the brain, a region called the prefrontal cortex is responsible for planning, decision-making, and analyzing outcomes. When you face uncertainty, like a tough decision or emotional pain, this area becomes hyperactive. It's your brain's way of saying, let's think this through carefully. But sometimes that thinking goes too far. Overthinkers experience an overload of activity in both the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain. The amygdala senses danger, real or imagined, and sends warning signals. The prefrontal cortex tries to respond logically, but instead of calming the storm, it fuels it by generating endless scenarios and what-if analyses. This creates a feedback loop of fear and reasoning that never ends. Your body also reacts to this mental chaos. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline rise, preparing your body for fight or flight. But there's no real threat, just thoughts. So your body stays tense, your heartbeat quickens, and your breathing becomes shallow. That's why overthinking feels physically exhausting. It's like running a mental marathon without moving an inch. From a psychological perspective, overthinking often roots in anxiety and perfectionism. Anxious people fear uncertainty. Perfectionists fear mistakes. Both try to think their way out of fear, but the mind turns that fear into fuel. The more you think, the worse you feel. In extreme cases, this can lead to insomnia, chronic stress, and even depression, because your brain begins to associate stillness with danger. When you're not busy or distracted, thoughts rush in like waves. And since the mind craves control, it tries to think its way to safety, creating an endless cycle. The human brain evolved to solve problems, but it was never meant to solve everything at once. Yet overthinkers demand that it does. And when the brain can't find an answer, it starts replaying old memories or worrying about imaginary futures. That's why overthinking is not intelligence. It's misdirected intelligence. Psychologists call it cognitive looping, a mental cycle where the same thoughts repeat endlessly. Imagine your brain as a hamster wheel. The more you think, the faster it spins, but you never move forward. This loop begins when you attach emotional weight to your thoughts. Something as simple as, "Did I say the wrong thing?" becomes a story. "They must think I'm stupid. They'll never talk to me again." And before you realize it, a single worry becomes an entire world of fear. The mind confuses thinking with solving. It believes that if you replay a situation enough times, you'll find peace. But peace doesn't come from replaying. It comes from releasing. Overthinking also feeds on uncertainty. Your brain hates not knowing. So it fills the gaps with assumptions, predictions, and imaginary scenarios, most of which are negative. You end up suffering more in imagination than in reality. This is why overthinkers often struggle with low self-esteem. They believe every thought that passes through their mind, even the cruel ones. I'm not good enough. What if I fail again? But thoughts are not facts. They are mental clouds, here for a moment, gone the next. You only suffer when you start believing they're permanent. Cognitive loops also trick you into believing you're doing something when you're not. You sit there thinking for hours, analyzing every angle. But in truth, you're stuck. And the longer you stay stuck, the heavier it feels to move. The loop becomes complete when your inaction creates more guilt. You think too much, so you act less. You act less, so you think more. This is how overthinking becomes a lifestyle, a mental prison with invisible walls. But every prison has an open door. You just have to stop pacing inside it and walk out. Overthinking is not just a thought pattern. It's an emotional storm. It begins quietly, with a whisper of doubt. Then the wind of fear picks up, and soon you're lost in a hurricane of your own making. When you overthink, you experience emotional flooding. The mind triggers feelings of anxiety, guilt, regret, and sadness all at once. You feel everything, everywhere, all the time. It's overwhelming because your emotional brain doesn't know which signal to prioritize. People who overthink often replay painful memories as if watching a movie they hate but can't turn off. Your brain releases the same stress chemicals every time you recall those moments. That's why emotional pain feels physical, because your body relives it. In this storm, the world seems louder, time moves slower, and peace feels impossible. But remember, emotions are visitors, not residents. They come to deliver messages, not to stay forever. The trick is not to fight the storm, but to observe it. When you say, I'm noticing anxiety, instead of I am anxious, you create distance between you and your emotions. That distance is where healing begins. Another hidden aspect of overthinking is self-blame. Overthinkers often punish themselves for things they couldn't control. They replay, if only moments, until they feel undeserving of peace. But psychology teaches us that guilt is only useful if it leads to growth. Endless guilt, on the other hand, is just self-torture. Sometimes, the storm inside you doesn't need more analysis. It needs compassion. You don't calm a storm by shouting at it. You calm it by understanding it. Tell yourself, it's okay to have thoughts. It's okay to feel this, but I don't have to drown in it. The emotional storm passes faster when you stop feeding it with fear. You can't stop thinking altogether, and you shouldn't. Your mind is meant to think, but you can teach it to think in healthier ways. Here's how psychology helps break this cycle of overthinking. 1. Awareness. The first step is noticing when you're stuck in a loop. Most people overthink unconsciously. But when you say, I'm overthinking, you shift from being inside the thought to observing it. That's a powerful shift. It puts you back in control. 2. Acceptance. Don't try to fight every thought. Resisting your mind only strengthens it. Instead, acknowledge your thoughts without judgment. Like watching clouds pass across the sky. Observe, don't react. 3. Action. Overthinking thrives on inaction. So do something, however small. Write a journal entry. Take a walk. Call a friend. Action creates clarity. Motion tells your brain, we're moving forward now. 4. Mindfulness. Practices like meditation, deep breathing, or simply noticing your surroundings bring your attention back to the present. When you're truly here, your brain can't wander into what if or what was. 5. Reframing. Challenge your thoughts gently. Ask, is this fact or fear? When you question your thoughts, they lose power. Remember, overthinking is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of caring too much. But caring without control becomes chaos. You must learn to care wisely. Every time you replace thought with action or fear with presence, you're rewiring your brain for peace. It takes practice, but healing always starts with awareness. When you finally understand overthinking, you realize it was never the world making you anxious. It was your mind's reaction to the world. Peace is not the absence of thoughts. It's the ability to choose which ones deserve your attention. You can't silence your mind, but you can stop obeying it. Start by forgiving yourself for the past, for the mistakes, for the time wasted in worry. You did what you could with what you knew then. That's enough. Then, remember, you don't have to solve everything right now. Life unfolds at its own pace. Overthinking tries to rush it, control it, perfect it, but real peace lives in acceptance. When you let go, your mind stops fighting reality. And in that silence, you find something better than answers. You find freedom. The most peaceful people are not those who have no problems. They are those who stopped letting every thought become a storm. So next time your brain starts racing, take a deep breath and remind yourself, I'm not my thoughts. I am a space between them. Because in that quiet space, you'll find the truth. Overthinking doesn't protect you. It only hides your peace behind unnecessary noise. And peace was never gone. You were just too busy thinking to see it. To truly understand overthinking, we need to go deeper, back to its roots. Because overthinking doesn't appear overnight. It's something that grows quietly inside us, shaped by our experiences, fears, and beliefs. Many overthinkers come from backgrounds where mistakes were punished, not learned from. Maybe as a child, you were told to be careful too often. Maybe your feelings were dismissed, or you were made to believe that being wrong meant being worthless. So your brain learned to scan every situation for danger. It learned that safety comes from being right. This is called conditional self-worth, the belief that you're only good enough when you make no mistakes. And that belief is the fuel that keeps the engine of overthinking running. Every decision becomes a test. Every failure becomes proof that you're not enough. Another deep cause is fear of loss. Humans hate uncertainty more than pain. That's why people stay in unhappy relationships, jobs, or habits, because at least they know them. Overthinking is the mind's desperate attempt to create certainty in an uncertain world. If I think long enough, I'll find control. But that illusion of control becomes a cage. There's also a biological layer. People with high levels of neuroticism, a personality trait linked to emotional sensitivity, are more prone to overthinking. Their brains react more strongly to stress, replaying experiences longer than most people do. It's not weakness, it's wiring. Then there's the modern world. Social media, constant comparison, and digital overstimulation have made overthinking worse. You scroll through perfect lives, perfect faces, perfect success stories, and your brain whispers, why not me? What if I fail? What if I'm behind? Every scroll adds fuel to your mental fire. You start to analyze your own worth based on others' highlights, and your brain never rests. But here's the truth psychology teaches us. Overthinking doesn't mean you're broken. It means your brain is trying to protect you with outdated methods. It's doing its job too well. The same mind that traps you in thought can also set you free. Once you teach it that safety doesn't come from control, but from trust. After all the analysis, reflection, and understanding, what's left? The art of letting go. It sounds simple, almost cliché, but in reality, it's one of the hardest skills a human can learn. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means accepting that not everything deserves a replay. It means choosing peace over perfection, presence over prediction. Your mind will try to hold on to unfinished stories, relationships that ended, words left unsaid, chances missed. It will whisper, maybe if I think harder, I can fix it. But life is not a puzzle to solve. It's a river to flow with. The more you fight the current, the more it pulls you under. When you stop fighting, you float. Psychologists call this cognitive defusion, the ability to separate yourself from your thoughts. Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, you say, I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. That small change creates space between you and your mind. And in that space, peace grows. Letting go also means accepting uncertainty. You don't need to know every answer. You don't need to fix every problem. You just need to trust yourself to handle what comes next. When you practice this acceptance daily, your brain slowly rewires itself. Neural pathways that once led to fear start leading to calm. Moments of silence stop feeling scary. They start feeling sacred. Letting go is not a one-time act. It's a lifestyle. You practice it every morning when you wake up and every night when you forgive yourself for the day. You practice it when you breathe deeply instead of overanalyzing. You practice it when you choose to live instead of think about living. In the end, overthinking is not your enemy. It's a signal. It's your mind saying, I'm scared. And you can whisper back, it's okay. You don't have to protect me anymore. Because when you let go, you don't lose control, you gain peace. And peace, not perfection, is what your mind was searching for all along.